This is unprecedented. The air era is dawning. F-16s and Tomahawks are already flying to Ukraine. They are turning off the taps on the enemy. Now that's a serious burn, an explosive breakthrough, a shock for Moscow. The air game has new rules. Trump is bringing out the heavy artillery. Europe is reacting. Patience has run out. Weaponry that will make the enemy's blood run cold. Where is all this leading and what comes next? Don't miss it. We'll cover it all right after this. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Solomia Dolik, and here are the latest developments. F-16s are flying to Ukraine. And this isn't just a promise anymore, but a confirmation from the very highest level. Belgium has confirmed all the promised fighter jets are ours. And this will be an explosive breakthrough in the skies.
When the planes arrive, it doesn't mean they will immediately go to Ukraine. But all the F-16s we promised, they will all be in your country. There is no doubt about that.
2026 could be the year that Ukrainian pilots take to the skies in these Iron Falcons. These aren't just planes, they are a weapon of deterrence, a symbol of strength and a signal to the enemy. Our superiority is in action. $20 billion and Tomahawks against Putin. Donald Trump is preparing a strike the Kremlin certainly isn't expecting. And all of this weaponry is for Ukraine.
We support the idea of imposing, call it what you will, a tariff on Russian oil for China, or a Ukraine victory tariff on China. But our Ukrainian and European allies must be ready to join in.
Trump is bringing out the heavy artillery. A 500% tariff on imports from China to make the Tomahawks fly. The US wants to hit Putin through China, through oil, through the economy. And to hit him hard, so the money is there, the missiles could be on the way, but where should they strike to truly break the Kremlin's game? A military expert has the answer, and it's not what you might think. He stated that if Ukraine gets Tomahawks, they must immediately start using them against Russia's oil and gas industry, specifically its refineries. That's because these missiles can inflict far more powerful strikes on the enemy than drones can.
Therefore, even a few dozen Tomahawks, if they correctly attack Russia's oil and gas facilities, could in the long run positively affect the front line. But that wouldn't happen for at least a few months. However, the Russians would feel an economic strike the very next day.
According to the military expert, just one of these weapons is enough, and one night could shake the economic heart of the adversary.
It would instantly take down the entire Russian oil and gas industry in the European part of Russia. That would be a serious blow to the economy, especially to the civilian sector. It wouldn't affect the military right away.
Tomahawks aren't just another missile. They have a range of over 1,600 kilometers. If the US gives them to Ukraine, the Russian rear will become a target for the first time. And the Pentagon already knows how to make it happen.
Ukraine would need a US Army launcher called the Typhon to launch Tomahawk missiles, which, according to military officials, would bring the United States closer to a direct confrontation with Russia.
The US is on the verge of a decision that changes the rules of the game on the battlefield. The president of the Jamestown Foundation Analytical Center, Glenn Howard, is convinced that giving Tomahawks to Ukraine could be a fatal blow to Russia's oil refining capacities.
If the US provides Ukraine with Tomahawks, it will drastically increase the pressure on Germany, which still refuses to transfer the Taurus despite ever-increasing pressure. This move would radically change the strategic balance, especially concerning the Kerch Bridge.
But while the partners are working on the supply, Ukraine is not waiting. We are strengthening our own potential. The long Neptune is already recognized as one of the best in its class. And this is our common strength with our allies.
Our missiles, the long Neptune, are recognized in their class today. In Europe, they don't make missiles of this level and class. This missile is considered the best, at least of those produced in Europe, no matter what.
In addition to the long Neptune, we are also building up Neptunes and Flamingos. This is not a construction, this is a strengthening of Ukraine's overall capability. According to a military analyst, the Ukrainian Flamingo missile can carry a large amount of explosives and flies a long distance. Therefore, the expert says it is a good missile.
If we scale up the production of at least two types of missiles, the long Neptune and the Flamingo, then we won't need Tomahawk-type missiles as much. It was obvious that help and the transfer of something sometimes happens when we don't really need it anymore. Maybe it's for the best. This is how our production is stimulated.
The Russian Federation is stunned. The US is sharply changing its tone. Trump is preparing a devastating blow. Tomahawks for Ukraine and new sanctions are already on the horizon. The world is holding its breath, but that's not all. The Kremlin is threatened by a new wave of economic pressure, with large-scale sanctions already at the approval stage. Shock and panic in the Russian leadership. The enemy's financial and energy valves are being shut off. Global processes are entering a culmination phase. What's next? How will the Russian Federation react, and what will Ukraine get? Don't miss it. More on all this later.
The United States of America is preparing for war.
A simple but profound truth. To be sure of peace, we must prepare for war. From now on, the sole mission of the restored Department of War is to fight, prepare for war, and win. Relentlessly and without compromise. Not because we want war, but because we seek peace for our citizens.
It seems that across the ocean they finally decided whose side is right. The US continues to supply Ukraine with weapons and resources. The Senate has approved the defense budget for the 2026 fiscal year, allocating $500 million in aid to Kyiv. According to CNN, the document was supported by 77 senators with only 20 against.
Indeed, the US can move to a qualitatively new level of influence on the peace process. The US truly has the greatest capabilities at this moment. This applies to both economic pressure and the transition to the second stage. It also applies to military aid for Ukraine, and that too is within the capabilities of the US. I mean, not only sales, but also lifting the bans on the use of certain weapons, which, according to reports, are already on their way to Ukraine.
At the same time, Donald Trump stated that the issue of providing Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles is almost resolved.
I can say this. Obviously, a weapon with a significantly larger warhead and a much longer range can profoundly change Putin's strategic calculations, but a more active and concerted work on intercepting the Shadow Fleet can also have a substantial effect. In addition, the entire current package of Ukraine's requests, which is now being implemented very quickly, is another testament to the determination of NATO, our allies, and the United States. It's not just about air defense systems to protect Ukrainians, but also about very serious types of weapons that Ukrainians will be able to use directly on the battlefield.
Along with this, the states are strengthening NATO's positions. The head of the White House stated that in the event of a Russian attack, America is ready to defend, in particular, Finland, Poland, and the Baltic countries.
I think Trump has become convinced that in a long, drawn-out war, Western alliances will lose, and anti-Western alliances and leaders who are already demonstrating their ambitions will gain weight. For now, they are demonstrating these ambitions, but to prevent them from becoming reality, the West must indeed demonstrate effectiveness and readiness to, well, truly return the system to certain global rules.
And it seems that the Trump administration is not acting alone. A new poll from Harvard University shows that an absolute majority of Americans support a tougher Washington policy towards the Russian Federation. Among Democrats and Republicans, a majority supports providing Ukraine with weapons and new sanctions against Moscow, 72% and 73% respectively. There are even more supporters of additional economic sanctions, 71% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans. Moreover, 76% of Democrats and 86% of Republicans believe that Europe should stop buying oil from the aggressor and instead purchase it from the US. And countries that continue to trade with Moscow should face additional tariffs. 55% of Democrats and 66% of Republicans believe so.
Given that the poll was conducted by such a serious and reputable organization, this can be viewed with a high level of confidence. And this, I'll tell you, is, a positive trend, because recently we observed a completely opposite dynamic, where the number of people supporting aid, especially military aid to Ukraine, was decreasing. Now we are seeing a different trend. This is important. And of course, this will be taken into account, it should be taken into account at least by Trump and his administration. Trump, as we know, pays close attention to public sentiment and the fact that these leading rates and now the majority is on the side of supporting Ukraine, and in this poll, on the side of the Republicans, among Republicans. This will certainly influence his attitude.
Times are changing, and America is making it clear that the Kremlin regime will not go unpunished. Support for Ukraine, strengthening NATO, and a readiness to defend allies. All of this is a signal that the US is serious about deterring escalation, showing Russia that any new aggressive actions and a refusal to move toward peace will lead to devastating consequences.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
And at this very moment, a new powerful signal from our partners. A decisive step that is bringing other allies along. Europe's patience has run out, and it is no longer holding back. Weaponry that will make the enemy's blood run cold is already on its way. This level of support is a game changer, and we have all the details right now in our report.
Ukraine's partners in Europe continue to provide assistance to Ukraine in the war with Russia.
We see that this is a criminal aggression entirely. It is imperative that Russia answers for its crimes, and for this, a special judicial body must be established. This criminal aggression must absolutely stop. The senseless killing must cease as swiftly as humanly possible. This unequivocally means we must continue to exert significant pressure on Russia so that we can effectively add more comprehensive sanctions and do absolutely everything within our power to ensure that Ukraine can valiantly fight and successfully defend itself from these brutal attacks on its land and from the air.
New steps in the defense partnership with Ukraine. The Netherlands will contribute 55 million euros to the World Bank to support Ukraine.
We are doing everything we can to support Ukraine, and we are doing this not only with words but also with our deeds. So 55 million to the World Bank. We have provided 55 million euros to the World Bank to help with humanitarian aid in reforms, recovery and reconstruction so that your country can emerge renewed. Your fight is our fight.
The Netherlands and Ukraine will continue to cooperate on joint defense projects. The focus is on the joint production of Ukrainian equipment in the Netherlands.
The Netherlands and Ukraine have agreed to work together on the production of drones that can be deployed here. And of course, we continue to provide substantial support with military equipment, including essential ammunition, advanced F-16s, and various other crucial weapon systems.
The Netherlands was one of the first countries to agree to transfer its F-16 fighters to Ukraine. The first aircraft were transferred to Ukraine in 2024. Washington is now considering transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Besides the US, these missiles are not only in the UK and Australia, but also in the Netherlands. The Kremlin has become quite tense. The propaganda publication Izvestia even sent a letter to the diplomatic mission of the Netherlands in Moscow asking about the possibility of transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
In a recent letter to Parliament, the government stated that, taking into account the continuing high needs of Ukraine on the one hand, and the urgent security interests of Europe and the Netherlands on the other, the Cabinet of Ministers has decided to allocate additional funding. Regardless of whether the Dutch government discloses information about the supplied cargo, the Ministry of Defense is guided by the principle of operational security, as well as the interests of third parties involved in the deliveries. The Dutch diplomatic mission in Moscow replied to Izvestia's question about the possibility of transferring Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
As the Russian Telegram channel Two Majors writes, the US Navy received State Department approval for the purchase of about 200 ground-based Tomahawk missiles in various versions for the Netherlands under the FMS, or Foreign Military Sales Program. The total cost of the program is estimated at $2.19 billion. The transfer of its own missiles to the Netherlands corresponds with the new rules, according to which Europe buys weapons from the US for Ukraine. Two Majors reminds us. The question remains, when can we expect the first use? Well, for now, it has been openly stated that the Dutch Ministry of Defense has signed an agreement with the Estonian company Milrem Robotics and the battery manufacturer VDL Tech for the joint production of defense equipment. The company will supply Ukraine with over 150 unmanned ground vehicles.
It is an honor for us to lead this project in partnership with the Netherlands and VDL. The Themis platform has already demonstrated its value in combat conditions, and we believe this contribution will significantly strengthen Ukraine's defense capabilities.
The cooperation is structural in nature and is designed to last for at least 10 years. New production lines are planned to be launched in the coming months. Additionally, Milrem Robotics will provide comprehensive training for Ukrainian operators to ensure effective deployment and maintenance in the field. The new units will supplement the 15 Themis vehicles already operating in Ukraine, which have been proving their effectiveness on the battlefield since 2022.
This vehicle can carry a payload of 700 to 750 kilograms. This means it can transport not only the wounded, but also handle logistics, for example, delivering ammunition to the front lines. It can also be used as a weapons chassis because anything can be mounted on it. Machine guns, automatic cannons.
Themis is an unmanned transport platform designed for armed forces support, logistics, reconnaissance, and combat support. Currently, the system is part of robotics programs and is operated in 19 countries, including 8 NATO members.
The Netherlands is one of the most principled defenders of life, a state that genuinely helps our defense, our resilience, and importantly, our work to achieve justice.
The Netherlands has also allocated 300 million euros for the recovery and strengthening of Ukraine during 2025 and 2026. Of this amount, 52 million euros will be directed towards energy infrastructure and water supply. Since 2022, the country has allocated 26 billion euros to Ukraine, of which 13.6 billion have been directed to military support. The Netherlands and its allies continue to support Ukraine in its fight for freedom and security.
And what do you think of our allies' actions? Share your opinion in the comments, like this video, and follow the top news with me. There's more to come. See you in the next segment.